Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Almost Martha. And today we're going to be making something that's so good. We are going to be making something for Thanksgiving. I'm going to be hosting Thanksgiving. I'm going to make it and freeze it so I have it for later. And it's a special recipe out of the Leopard Family Cookbook. So I had a fan, big fan of the show, tell me that they wanted to see more recipes from this cookbook. Hi, Mom. So today I'm going to be making my mom's very delicious, very famous pecan pie. And it's a great pie. It's not too sweet, full of pecans, really delicious. So I think everyone's going to love it. So it is a great Thanksgiving pie. Everybody expects pecan pie, right? But I'm going to make it today. I'm going to freeze it, and it should be just perfect on Thanksgiving Day. And that's one thing that you can do ahead. And as I'm talking about this fabulous cookbook, Christmas is coming up. This would be a great gift, for kids and grandkids, just to write down all of your family's most favorite recipes. It'll be something that they'll treasure forever. So I know I will. All right, get ready. We're going to make my mom's pecan pie. I have my handy dandy food processor all set, and we're gonna make a very quick crust. So I have 1.5 cups of flour, which I'm just gonna put right into the processor. Okay, beautiful. 1 large pinch of sea salt, right? There you go, right there. Maybe a little smidge to go on. Get rid of that. That all away. And now we have butter. So we have 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter. So I am just gonna plop this in here and just chop it up like a tablespoon at a time. And I'm just gonna pulse this in. We don't want it to get overmixed, but we do want that butter to be incorporated. Okay. So at the end of the day, you want this pastry to look sort of like cornmeal, right? So it has a different look to it. So right now, pulsing this butter in. You don't want that butter to get too warm. Okay, it looks kind of meal-like in there right now. So as you can see, I have prepared a little cup of ice water because you want to use chilled water. So I'm going to start adding a couple of tablespoons. I'm going to pulse it a little bit after every addition. It says like 5 to 6 tablespoons, so that's 2, 3, 4. It's starting to come together now. Looking a little more dough-like, but it's really not quite there. So just keep adding a little bit of this ice water until it starts to form a ball. There it goes. It's coming along. Okay. I use 6 tablespoons, which is, what they suggested, 5 to 6 tablespoons, and that's what it took. So now you can see my dough is really a dough, right? So I'm going to put this to the side, and I'm going to get this out of my food processor. If you have the right tools, there is really no reason to ever buy pie crust, right? Because it's just super easy to make. Okay, so now I have my crust. Now, normally at this point in the recipe, they will tell you to form it into a ball and to put it in the refrigerator and to let it chill. But we're not going to do that because this, well, in September, I went to France and I took a lovely cooking class in France with Chef Elise. And she said, why would you do that? Why would you do that? You're just going to make it harder on yourself later on when you take that hard ball out of the refrigerator. And as you start to add flour to it to roll it out, you're adding more flour than it needs. And it's also hard to do because now you've refrigerated it. And then the more you work the dough, you're going to have to refrigerate it again, right? So we're just going to use parchment paper. We're not going to use flour, and we are going to roll the dough out now and then chill it. It was a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. And I've been doing it that way ever since. So have my rolling pin. And I'm just going to roll this dough out. This is my job in cooking class too. I was the one rolling the dough over and over. All right, we're going to get it to the thickness that we want. We're going to pretend like, this is the finished product. So we just want the pie crust to be in a circular shape, and we don't want it to be too thick, and we're going to want it to fill, our little pie plate completely. So just keep it going. Okay, I think I'm good to go. Whoops, I've got my big circle here, and the parchment paper will lift right off, right? So this is fabulous. This is a little wrinkled on this side. That's okay. Now I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator and I'm gonna let this chill. And right before I'm ready to use it, I'm probably gonna put it in the freezer for just 2 or 3 minutes. We wanna make sure that that butter is really, really cold when we put this into the oven, because that's gonna help make a really nice flaky crust. So into the fridge. Now here we are for our pecan pie recipe. I just put the dough in the freezer, so I don't want it to freeze completely. If it does, of course, we can just let it thaw for a minute or two. But now it's time to start putting all of our pie ingredients together. And we're gonna start with 2 slightly beaten eggs. So that's all I'm gonna do right there. Just enough to sort of break the yolks and get it, pretty much together. That's really all you need. So we have 2 slightly beaten eggs. We have just a 1/4 cup of sugar, just a 1/4 cup of sugar. And we also have about a 1/4 of a teaspoon, or she says, or a little less. I'm not even going to bother to measure it. I'm just going to do that. And I think that's fine. I'm usually pretty good at guessing this stuff. All right, I'm going to mix that in. Okay, lovely. Now I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of melted butter, but that's still a little warm, so I'm going to wait a second. I have 1 cup of syrup, and that's all the recipe says is syrup. But I know what syrup she's talking about. She's talking about Karo. Yes, Karo. And they make Karo in dark or light. You can use either one, but we've always sort of used the light, I think. So that's what I'm going to use today. We used to love this stuff. We used to put it on biscuits and maybe on pancakes instead of maple syrup. It's really not that good for you, I don't think. But hey, man, it's pecan pie. It's it's Thanksgiving. So there you go. So now I'm adding in 1 cup of this syrup. And I don't know how many pecan pies you would see without syrup, because that's sort of what makes that gooey center stuff that's so good. Okay, so I'm mixing my syrup in. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my melted butter. It's not so hot now. That's Luke guarding the house from people walking down the sidewalk. I also have 1 cup of pecans. I'm going to put that right in. Okay. Well, I had to go see what all the fuss was about, and it looks like my new roasting pan is here, getting ready for Thanksgiving. So, yeah, no package slips by us. No. Okay, so I now have my pecan pie mixture ready to go. Now I have to get my crust ready. And I pulled it out of the freezer because I wanted to get it nice and cold. It is it's not frozen solid, so that's good. That's very good. All right. Okay. Now I'm just going to press it down in my pie pan. And it's all ready to go. Don't you just love parchment paper? It's just the most wonderful thing. Okay. So now I'm going to remove the excess dough, which is good because I always like to make a little sample on the side so I can see how good it is. If you're going to give it away, if you're going to serve it to people, you really want to know that it's good before you force them to eat your cooking. Okay. All right. So here we are. I'm going to just mold this a little bit around the edges. We will take a fork and kind of crimp it up at the end. Okay. Okay, that's great. Now we're gonna put this in the oven as an unbaked shell here today. So now I've got this ready to go, but I don't want this to puff up too much as it's cooking. So I am gonna make some little marks in it. Do not go all the way down to the bottom because then your mixture is gonna leak out and then it's gonna stick. And believe me, that's happened to me. That's happened to me with this very pie. So just put some small indentations in the pie and put them around the center. This is supposed to help keep it from puffing up too much. So we're just gonna make tiny little holes. We're not gonna go all the way through. We definitely don't wanna do that, but we wanna just give it a little bit of a poke here. Okay, that's good. That's good, all good. Now I have my leftover pie crust, and I am going to put it in a little bitty container because I really sort of want to make a little test pie for myself. Make sure all is well. So anything that you can just put in the oven, just go ahead and press it right in there. And then this will be our little test pie. So we'll get to taste that. Well, the plan is to put this one in the freezer. Okay. Crust might be a little thick on the test, but that's okay. Just a couple little marks there. That's good. Now I'm going to take my mixture, and I hope there's going to be some left. I don't know. Put it in the pie. No, I think it's going to take it all. It's going to take it all. Yep. So I'll just use this little crust for something else. Don't want to let a crust go to waste. Yep. Okay. So I just sort of dumped it in rather, not very artfully. But now is when you can sort of arrange the pecans just so it's a little nice and neat. You can make sure you've got the whole pecans on top. And I actually have some pecans in reserve. So if I want to just add a few more, I certainly can, because we want to make this nice and beautiful. And it's kind of nice, especially if you've got a little theme in the center. So you can put some pecans right in the center, form a little pattern. But you want it to look full of pecans, look very, very bountiful. Something to be thankful for. Okay. Great. Great, great, great. And also to, kind of flip them over. The front side of the pecan is a little more attractive than that underside. So we want our pie to be attractive as well as delicious. So I'm just going to arrange these pecans, make sure they're flipped the way I want them to be. I'm going to hide the pieces at the bottom and keep the whole pieces on top. Okay, that's good. Very good. Very, very good. Well, you eat with your eyes first, right? So it has to look delicious as well as be delicious. Boy, there's nothing worse than biting into something that's really pretty and having it just not have any flavor at all. So there we go. Okay. So everything is nice. Most of that is turned the way we want it to be turned. So now I'm just going to take my fork and I'm going to crimp the pie. I'll probably do it twice. You always want your pie crust to overhang just a tiny bit because the pie crust will generally shrink in the oven. And when it does, it can sort of fall down in the pie. You really don't want that. So we want it to kind of grip just a little bit over that side, and that will help to keep it from doing that, that creep. Okay. Just mash that all on in. I have a fancy crimper somewhere, but it's going to look very homey, very homemade, which is what everybody wants. Everybody wants. Okay. Fantastic. So now the last thing to do is just to brush this with a little egg white, and then we're going to pop it right in the oven. This bakes at 325 for about an hour, but you should start checking it at about, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and see where it is, and then you can decide, how much longer it takes. But the recipe does call for 1 hour at 325. That will get this entire crust baked thoroughly, as well as the rest of the pie. So now I'm just going to brush it with a little egg white, and away we go. Okay. I have my little egg wash here. So I have 1 egg white. I added just a little bit of water to it. And then I'm just going to brush the outside of the pie. I don't want it to be that. Make sure you get egg white that's not all sort of coagulated, right? So it's okay. And there we go. And that should make that look fantastic. Okay. Now, time to go in. All right, I'm going to check it at 40 minutes, and then we'll see where we are. Okay, I'm at about the 45-minute mark. Oh, yeah. I think we have liftoff. I think it's really good. It has puffed up just a little bit with the egg in there. That's great. The crust is lightly browned. This is a glass dish. Yep. So I can look underneath and see that it's all done. So this is my pecan pie. This is my mother's pecan pie. Oh, fantastic. Well, that is one thing that is now off of my Thanksgiving to-do list, right? So I will be able to let this cool completely. And once it's cooled completely, I'm going to wrap it really tightly in some plastic wrap and maybe even some aluminum foil over it. Then I'm going to put it in the freezer. And on Thanksgiving morning, I'm going to pull it out of the freezer and let it come to room temperature, and it's going to be ready to go. You can serve it with a little dollop of whipped cream on top or nothing at all and a cup of coffee. So it is a great pie, and I hope you try it. I hope you saw that it was, pretty easy to do, and I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. Bye, Mom. Thanks for the recipe. I'll see you next time. Oh, and don't forget, go to almost-martha.com to get this recipe and all the other recipes that I've done. Oh, it's going to be a great Thanksgiving, don't you think? Okay, see you next time.